Welcome back to the FinTech Ledger, the show where SaaS and FinTech leaders break down what's driving growth, innovation, and customer impact in today's financial technology ecosystem. I'm your host, Reggie Riley, and today I'm joined by a great guest, Roger Knecht, president of Universal Accounting School, longtime leader in helping accountants, bookkeepers, and coaches build stronger, more profitable practices. Roger, it's great to have you.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me here.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and Universal Accounting before we jump in?
Certainly, Reggie, happy to. I want to actually emphasize that I'm first and foremost a husband, a father. I'm basically somebody that enjoys getting out and enjoying the outdoors. So on a personal side, that's who I'd consider myself to be. As a business person, I happen to be president of Universal Accounting Center. We're a post-secondary school for accounting professionals. We traditionally are working with individuals who are trying to excel in their careers as it relates to accounting, or more importantly, working with owners of bookkeeping, accounting, tax businesses as they're attempting to become what I refer to as the premier accounting firm. We're trying to help them as owners build that business, but at the same time train their staff so that they're offering quality accounting services.
Fantastic. Beautiful. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So you built Universal Accounting and you built it into a recognized leader in accountant training and practice growth. What originally pulled you into this world and what keeps you excited about it today? I've watched several of your videos and you are excited about it today. So I'm just anxious to hear what pulled you in and what keeps you going.
Wow. Well, there's a number of years of history here, so let me try and keep it simple. I started in the accounting profession back in the late 90s. Initially, it was that of a headhunter. I was doing job placement, if you will. And as I did that, I became acquainted with accounting professionals as I placed them on both temporary and permanent positions. And it's in that capacity that I became familiar with Universal Accounting Center. And I began initially doing some consulting work with them. And as a school, became introduced to the principal players within the organization and was given an opportunity to work with them in 1999. So from that, I was involved with the school when it was a more traditional school. It wasn't online. It was traditional classroom settings, as you would expect. And from there, I was able to work with the company now for nearly 3 decades. And in that process, I've seen most of the roles in the organization and have been president of the company for more than a decade now.
Fantastic. Congratulations. Fantastic.
Thank you.
As you look back at that esteemed career you just covered, what were some of the bigger, if not the biggest turning point that forced you to think differently about how accounting services should be delivered and then scaled?
Oh, geez, there's a few I could mention. One that comes to mind, and it really does stand out, is I recall a time when we were actually incorporating into the classroom computer training, and we were training them at the time in software, Excel, those types of things. And it was very common for individuals to become acquainted with computers back in those days. So it was something that they expected. Well, what we realized is as we started to incorporate into the training the use of the computer, we honestly saw the dumbing down of the individual. They started to become data entry people. They didn't understand what the computer was doing behind the scenes as it related to the accounting process. And so as it became time to test them on their accounting understanding of the accounting model, let's say, they weren't doing as well as they were before the computers when they were literally having to take pencil to paper and do all the accounting transactions, journals, the ledgers, and so forth. And it was through that learning that we realized as a school that we had to intentionally separate those activities, that to simply introduce the accounting was important, but we couldn't bring the computers onto the scene too soon, or we didn't want to bring them on too soon, I should say. So what we understood is that we have to keep that delineation very clear. Let's teach the accounting model, and then let's teach the accounting application in a computerized environment. And that was, 2 decades ago. And so to see how it's evolved to not only just being a software environment to then eventually becoming accounting on the cloud, as we recall, going paperless, and then after that, we've seen recently the incorporation of AI into the accounting model. So there's been evolutions that have occurred clearly over these last, say, 30 years.
Fantastic. Well, let's stay on that. From your vantage point, how has the rise of SaaS tools and AI reshaped what accountants should be spending their time on versus what they can automate away?
I love that question. The thing that I think is very important is some people see AI as possibly eliminating the role of accounting, and I go straight to that to point out that it won't. This is perhaps the second oldest profession. It's not going anywhere. However, the tools we're using to be that accounting professional are changing. What we found is in the past, we would spend our time recording transactions, and we took pride in actually recording those transactions correctly to produce accurate financial reports. That was a recording of the past. And for many people, that was sufficient for years. That's what was expected of the accounting profession. Today, that's no longer the case. With the technology that exists today, we can have, in essence, kind of real-time accounting. We can actually do better, accurate forecasting and budgets. We can actually help the business owner foresee into the future the cash flow needs that they may have. That's powerful. And what we're doing is we're empowering the business owner to make more informed business decisions. And as accounting professionals, the more we can embrace that role of not just being historians of the business, helping them prepare for perhaps filing their tax returns, but more importantly, engage with the business owner to help them understand the language of business, accounting, and how it can be utilized to make those decisions, I think is a very important role, but it's a change that's happening for the accountant. They didn't see themselves in this capacity before.
Sure. This is great. You're dovetailing into every a couple questions I have here. So you focus on empowering accountants to treat their practice like a business. What are the top traits you see in accountants to successfully make that shift from technician to entrepreneur?
Oh, beautiful question. The first thing I'm going to emphasize is the fact that you can be a phenomenal accountant. You love the numbers, you're great at the reports, the intuition is there, but unless you have paying customers, it doesn't matter. Unless you have clients that value your services and are willing to pay for them, who cares? And so at the end of the day, we have to give value or preference to our ability to market and sell our services. At the end of the day, yes, you're doing great, but we want those clients. And so what we're having to do is help educate these owners of bookkeeping, accounting, tax businesses to recognize that as strong as they are in accounting services, tax services, and so forth, they equally have to be great at marketing and selling. And so we're helping them understand how to actually identify their ideal client. How do you then, once you've identified them, find them, market to them, educate them, position yourself as being that authority, help them understand how they could benefit from you doing their books, their taxes, and so forth. And it's through that education that they'll ultimately come to see you as somebody that they want to work with and are willing to pay for your services.
Fantastic. I think that kind of applies to a lot of businesses. That's great advice.
Yeah.
What do you see as the biggest gap between what accounting firms think clients want and what owners actually value in 2025? So it kind of takes that business acumen and the ability to sell themselves and be relevant to their prospects, and then getting even deeper. What is on their minds in terms of what they think they need and what clients really want?
So, Reggie, what I have found to be that distinguishing difference is a simple phrase. It's this phrase that says, therefore what? We take pride in producing these financial reports, doing the tax returns, perhaps advising our clients as it relates to the financial numbers in the business. But at the end of the day, the business owner is sometimes reluctant and don't know what to ask. But for us as accounting professionals, I think we need to be a little bit more forthcoming, a little bit more engaged with our clients to help them understand what we're seeing. We have a unique perspective. We're not involved in the day-to-day operations of the business typically. We have a perspective that's through the lens of the numbers. The accounting is the language of business. So what is that information telling us? The way I like to communicate it is think of it as if the business speaks a language of which the accountant is the translator. We're the interpreter. The business owner is great at what they do, that product or service that they offer, but they may not speak accounting. So what we are is that translator, interpreter that's taking what the business is attempting to communicate through the numbers, and we're helping as the accounting professional to put it in a way, a context that the business owner can now understand. Take, for example, a language you're not familiar with, Spanish, French, Latin, German, Chinese, whatever that language is. If I had a page of information that was written out in that language that's hugely important to you, but you don't speak that language, how valuable would that interpreter be to you? And what we're doing is we're taking that role and we're saying, look, the business is trying to say something to you. I like this, do this more, stop that. And as a company, we're trying to now help that business understand what's going on. So we're in that role, we're in that process. And so that question of therefore what is, I think, what we need to be doing a better job of explaining to the business owner.
Great example. Thank you. So for accounting professionals, differentiation becomes a major challenge. What strategies do you believe help firms stand out in that niche without racing to the bottom on price and trying to appear more affordable versus presenting that value story?
Yeah, so there's that idea of commoditizing the accounting role. It's the bookkeeping, the tax that might be easily, say, addressed by AI. What we're needing to do is then find what are those value adds that we can bring to the equation for our clients. And so when you consider what the value adds would be for a business owner, it's oftentimes things that they don't know they need. They don't know how to ask for it or what to expect. And so we have to do a better job of explaining how the features of what we do apply to them as benefits. And so if we can better explain or articulate what it is they could expect from a relationship with us that's really at that CFO advisory level, at that tax planning and tax strategist level, where we're proactive, we're actually forward thinking. And if we could do that for the business owner, we might be able to address the challenges that they're facing as it relates to cash flow management. Maybe it's mitigating legally some of the tax liabilities that they've been facing. All these creative things looking forward are actually because of the insights, the professional experience that the accountants can bring to that business relationship. And so I think the challenge we're facing is it's not dwelling so much on we can produce, valuable financial reports timely. It's not that we can do your tax returns and do it accurately. It's this more CFO advisory strategic type things that we can focus on.
Got it. Got it. Okay, great. Uh, you've worked with thousands of firms at different growth stages. What patterns and what consistencies do you see in the firms that break through plateaus, and what holds others back typically?
Good question. So, this is obviously a preference. Every business owner is building their business. Everyone has what they want to offer as services, and they can determine how large they want to be. So, I respect the fact that every business is unique. That being said, I think it's very important to realize that when you stop seeing the business as honestly just a job, being a solopreneur, doing all the work, nothing happens unless you get it done, to building an actual business that's built up of clients that interact with staff that are actually following specific standard operating procedures to ensure the quality of the work. That whole mechanism, that whole business process is an ecosystem that they're developing and building that they can ultimately sell. To help a business owner, especially an accounting professional, realize that their value isn't in the client list that they've built, but rather in the processes that they've established, the staff that they've trained. Those things also bring value to where they can actually now have an accounting firm that's something they can be proud of and really retire from. That's powerful. And so it's that transition from being in that job mentality of I have to do it all to I'm going to train others. I'm going to delegate. I'm actually going to create processes that ensure a quality of service that I can be proud of that I didn't necessarily have to do. That's something that you're building. And it's, in my opinion, and I'm going to go a little bit further here if I may, the idea is consider your business much like a child. At the very beginning, as an infant, it's very dependent upon you as a business owner because if you don't open the door, the business doesn't open. But what you want to do is seeing your business like that child, you recognize I have to feed it, I have to dress it, I have to watch it, otherwise it's going to get into trouble. But when you go to that teenage level, that teenager becomes a little bit more independent. They have perhaps extracurricular activities they enjoy. Well, that's like having employees that are capable of interacting with your customers in your behalf. They're able to take the initiative. They're able to do things that they like. Well, that's powerful because you're actually now starting to see that you're autonomous from the business. Now, all of a sudden, what happens is you go to that young adult phase where your business now has some key managers. They have the drive, the initiative to take that business to another level, and you're perhaps not involved in the day-to-day operations. All of a sudden, when you can see your business evolve through these different stages, you start to appreciate the fact that you're no longer a solopreneur and that you have to be there for everything. That right there is a business that I think people can aspire to have, and that's what I encourage my clients to do.
Yeah, fantastic, fantastic. Sort of staying on that same vein, you do teach accountants how to sell, something many avoid or don't envision it as part of the job, necessarily when they go into it. Um, what are your top insights for an accountant who loves the work but hates the sales part? And you may have touched on some of this a little bit earlier, but I'm just kind of curious and thinking about that pure, I've got to go sell my brand, I've got to go sell my company, or I'm not just not going to have any clients.
Yeah, I did allude to it, so let me go a little bit deeper. I think one of the first things is recognizing which are you maybe good at or perhaps need some help with between marketing and selling, and it's understanding the distinction between the two. I coincidentally do run into individuals that are great with referrals. They do phenomenal with referrals in the sense that they can easily sell them and get them as new clients, but they struggle finding clients on their own. They just don't know where to market and find that new introduction. So we need to focus then on where can you go and actually through marketing find those potential customers. On the flip side, we work with individuals that are phenomenal at the marketing. They get out there, they network phenomenally well and meet new business owners. They've got really a knack for finding those potential customers. Where they struggle is getting them to the point of recognizing their worth and selling their services. So they need help on the selling side. So let me just kind of illustrate it in a second way. Once you clearly identify who your ideal customer is, I like to work with this, let's say this niche of an industry, this type of a business owner, this size of a business, this old of a business, all those types of things, you can now refine where you're going to go to find them. And in that marketing, you can clarify your messaging, what resonates with your potential customers, basically help them self-identify. But that brings you to the second phase. Once you've had a customer identify that they're interested in your services, they identify themselves as a potential customer or client, now the work begins because you're no longer marketing. You know who they are. You now need to sell. And there's two critical components to this. One, you have to position yourself as the authority. Why are you the expert? Why are you someone that they should prefer doing business with over someone else? And so over time, you need to nurture them to see you as that expert. The second thing in that nurturing is you have to educate the customer as to why your services mean so much and are worth paying for. See, they don't understand accounting. They may not even understand what it is we do, but it's through that education that we're able to help them realize that they can't be in business without us. There's so much that we bring to the table that could be so helpful as it relates to payroll, to cash flow, to profit margins, just so many things. And all of a sudden, the business owner understands, I can't be in business without this accounting help. I see this individual as the authority. I see these services as ones that I should be benefiting from. Through that education, they now are willing to meet with you. And that brings us to the engagement where you're able to now understand their needs, offer your services, and ask for the sale. Well, those three phases are very critical to understand as part of the sales process, and each of them need a unique skill or ability: marketing, the nurturing process of the sales, and asking for the sale. So that's where I usually spend my time with my clients, is identifying where they're perhaps lacking the most and filling that void.
Okay. All right. Fantastic. So this will dovetail right into that. What new skills will accountants need over the next 3 to 5 years to stay relevant and competitive? I feel like every industry needs to be asking themselves that today. But as you think about accountants in the next 3 to 5 years, what will they need to do to stay relevant and competitive?
So I'm going to address AI, and I'm going to do this in a moment in an analogy. So
Okay.
the first thing to answer your question is, I think the accounting professional needs to recognize that for them to remain relevant and significant to their customers is they have to be able to be that bridge between the AI that's out there, this powerful, wonderful tool that can actually help provide insights to the business owner, and doing so as the liaison between the business and that AI. There's a number of accounting platforms, tools, products. All these things are integrating AI into the platforms. Well, the business owner has no desire or interest of logging into an accounting software or a financial planning software because they have a business to run. What they're looking for is someone who, like us as an expert, can come in and use that tool to accelerate our ability to service that client. And there's actually an accounting shortage going on now where the demand for accounting services is going to go up, and we're seeing so many retire and leave the profession at a faster pace than are entering the profession that the demand's going to be there. And fortunately, because of technology and the tools we have available, we'll be able to service more clients because of this technology, but we're still relevant because we're the ones that are going to be the individuals interfacing with that technology. So the example I mentioned a moment ago, I make it akin to something like a carpenter. You can be a phenomenal carpenter that just loves woodworking, that's great with your hands. But a great carpenter will also see the value in working with like a nail gun and getting an air compressor. The efficiencies that come from that don't rob them of their ability to be a phenomenal carpenter. And the same is true for the accountant. These tools that are coming on the scene are no different than the calculator, the computer, the cloud accounting softwares that came over the years. These are tools that we're able to embrace as an accounting profession to do our jobs better. And if we don't shy away from them, but we embrace them and understand that we do need to understand these tools, will be effective and helpful to our clients.
Fantastic. Great analogy, by the way. Great analogy. I think a lot of people are kind of wondering about everything that they do, well, professionally as they go about their businesses. Where do I fit in this? So, great analogy. Advisory continues to grow in demand. What does real advisory mean, and how can firms transition from compliance to higher value engagements, and really bump up their services?
I love this question. One of the things that's so important for you to understand, Reggie, is to move into that advisory space. And I refer to it as in accounting, CFO and advisory, or tax strategy and planning. Either place, what you're dealing with is you're dealing with a place where the business owner doesn't have financial reports that they're expecting. They're expecting direction, insight, and experience. And there's two things that I think need to be considered to be a phenomenal business coach in either the accounting or tax side. And it's simply two things. One is the ability to ask the right questions. And the second is the ability to hold the business owner accountable. See, the business owner's in a unique situation. They have very few, if anyone, that they're accountable to. So they're in this lonely world. We always say it's lonely at the top. Well, part of that loneliness comes from the fact that they can procrastinate. They can push things off. They can reprioritize things. But when in a meeting with an advisor, somebody that's working in that role as a business coach, they ask a great question. The business owner volunteers, well, this is what's important. This is what needs to happen next to my business. This is what I think I need to do as I look forward and have this vision of where I'm going with my company. And as we ask those questions, they get to now kind of explain where they're going with things. And we follow up now with the timeline. Well, when are you going to do this? When are you going to do that? As we ask those questions, get deadlines, and now begin holding them accountable, what they're going to experience is they're going to not placate and stagnate, but they're going to move forward, and we're going to accelerate the success that they're experiencing because we're holding them accountable for deadlines that they otherwise would either procrastinate, push off, and rationalize. And what we're trying to do as accounting professionals is step into that role where we can be those advisors, that business coach, and assist them in moving their businesses ahead at an accelerated pace.
Fantastic. Thank you. So, looking ahead, if you had to pick two or three trends that accounting and fintech leaders should prepare for in 26, what would you put on the short list? I know you've talked a little bit about AI. It seems to dominate a lot of the conversations, and it's fine to be in this one too. What are those two or three trends that accounting firms and leaders should be thinking about in 26?
I think we need to lean in as an accounting profession to the small business owners, to the medium-sized business owners, and help
Okay.
them recognize that we're still relevant and why. And I think one of the things that we can use to illustrate that is that we have access to powerful information to accelerate the successes in their business, the AI. But to get to that information, they need to go through us because we have the tools to do this. There's nothing to suggest that they have to go learn something new or subscribe to something else. We have that available to us. These are the resources that we can bring to the business equation. And what we're going to do is do so. But that requires us as accounting professionals to go out and get trained and familiar with these different tools and resources that are coming to us through the interfaces we're already paying for and using. Most of the places that we're using, say for our general ledger, maybe it's QuickBooks, Sage, Xero, FreshBooks, whatever it is, they're incorporating into their platforms AI. So are we familiar with how we can leverage that for our client to our client's advantage? And so I think this next year, one of the things that we have to do is just kind of educate our clients as to what we have available that we can access in their behalf. And I think that's going to be one of the telltale things is they're going to hear about these sexy little tools that are available for them. But as a business owner, they're too busy to really tap into it. If they can see that we can enable them to have access to it and utilize it, I think they'll be willing to pay for our services.
Sure. I think that's a great insight. I mean, so many things are being positioned as just push a button, enter a few numbers, and move forward. But the intellect has to play a big role here, and professionals and experience, because this is one area you don't want to make mistakes, potentially very big and
Oh
consequential
yeah.
mistakes. So very, very good, very insightful. So finally, and this may dovetail a little bit into what we were just talking about, but for SaaS founders selling into the accounting and finance ecosystem, what advice would you give them about building trust, demonstrating value?
Obviously, this is just my opinion, but I'm going to say that one of the things that I think is a big turnoff is suggesting that they can bypass the accounting professional and go straight to the business owners with the tools and resources that they're creating. I think that will happen in time. I can foresee that future, but I do believe in the next year or two, we're still an integral part of the accounting process, and our experience can actually supplement or complement what this AI is able to do. These tools and resources are phenomenal, but the point is they still hallucinate, they still will make mistakes, and it's the sixth sense, the wisdom that we have through our experience as accounting professionals that we can use to check and balance these things to the needs of our clients. Just because the AI said it doesn't mean it's true. Just because the AI recommended it doesn't mean we should do it. So we need to be that buffer between the AI and the business owner, using the tools and really trying to help actually mitigate some problems that if the business owner just ran with some of this information, they really could do themselves a big disadvantage. And what we want to do is kind of mitigate that. So I really do feel for those platforms as they try to work with the accounting professionals is help us understand how we can better utilize that as we work with our clients. And more importantly, what can we do to quickly come up to speed as to what that technology is so that we can more quickly utilize it with our firms.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Well, before we sign off, where can our viewers and listeners find you and learn more?
Well, Reggie, easiest thing is I would recommend connecting with me on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a great place for us to connect. I'd love for your people to not only connect, but direct message me there and just mention this podcast. I'd love to have them make mention of it and know that
Great.
this is where they heard both of us together. And
Great.
then in addition, I invite them to go to universalaccounting.com. There we have a number of free resources for business owners. These are resources that are courses, ebooks, white papers, just a variety of things to actually help the small business community so that the business owner can literally have access to tools that they need to build their companies more intelligently. So invite them to take advantage of that.
Fantastic. Roger, this has been really, really outstanding. I appreciate it. Really insightful advice, I think, not only for accounting and the professionals you're speaking of, but anyone in FinTech, in the broader financial system and ecosystem.
Yeah.
So thank you for joining us. And to our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to follow the show, share it with a colleague. We'll be back next week with more conversations from innovators shaping the future of FinTech. Roger is certainly one of those people, so I hope you enjoy it. Roger,
Well,
thank you very much.
Reggie, thank you very much. And always remember this, if it's about accounting, it is universal.
Fantastic. I love it. Thank you very much.